Simon.
Okay, hello everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to come on and then we'll get right in. Thanks to everybody that liked and shared the video last week. We've had over 200,000, I think we're 210,000 views on that. So that's awesome just to see that many people interested in taking their money out of the bank. And today's going to be a bit of a follow-on as well. So welcome everybody. If you could give us a little message, let us know where you're coming in from. We'll check the live chat. We've got Azad here. Hopefully Azad's everything will be working on his mic this time. We managed to get Zoom back up and running, but still a few glitches, but we'll see where it goes now. And today we're going to be doing a follow-on from last week, which is actually how to live without a bank. And this is going to come from my experience of when I actually moved from the United Kingdom to Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for about 3 years. And as soon as I actually got there, I didn't actually have a bank account. I was living without a bank account for quite some time. And things have moved on a lot since then. So we're going to be discussing lots of different financial services that are available outside of the banking system altogether, so that you can start to develop an approach and understand what's actually available out there. So if you like this topic, please do help us continue the momentum of last week, over 200,000 views. A big chunk of that was, I think we got over 6,000 likes. So if you wouldn't mind, just like this video right now before I get into the content, while we're waiting for more people to show up to the live stream. Also going to do an AMA in the second half as usual. So get your questions ready and Azad will be picking out some questions and we'll make sure that we get round to that. If you could share this video as well, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you like. The more people that get this message, the more content we can create and the more we can help. So, living without a bank, how does it actually work? Well, I wrote the book, Bank to the Future, Protect Your Future Before Governments Go Bust. And one of the chapters was on this topic, exactly how to live without a bank. That turned out to be the very first published book in the world to include Bitcoin. And I was writing that and I debuted that book at the very first non-US Bitcoin conference in Prague. You can see that if you're a subscriber to my YouTube channel, go way down to the bottom of the archives. You can see that. You can see the whole archives from before Bitcoin as well. It was when I wrote that book, I did a whole chapter on the possibilities of how to live without a bank. And it was pretty much impossible to live fully outside of the traditional financial system, but you could use services like peer-to-peer lending and all the different services offered at a bank through non-bank financial institutions. But now we've gone one step further. And that is that you've got an entire financial system, an ecosystem that's built around money that exists completely outside of the traditional financial system ever since Bitcoin was created. And lots of the innovation. Now, I'm going to have to put in a few disclaimers here. Some of the things that I will talk about are very new, very nuanced. They have speculative value in them, in that they're not really proven, they're not tried and tested. And so therefore, it's kind of buyer beware in this industry. And I will try and avoid giving specific company or application recommendations. The reason for that is because I don't want you to go and use these applications and see that as a particular endorsement. But the world of decentralized finance, it's the new buzzword that we're seeing right now, is allowing people in our industry anyway. We get lots of buzzwords. You get lots of pumps, dumps, bubbles, and all sorts of stuff in the crypto industry. And the latest one is decentralized finance. But at the same time, out of all these pumps and dumps and crazy things, around all the people trying to scam and all the crazy things that come about, you get genuine innovation that actually is going to change the world. And so when I actually moved to Hong Kong, I was actually at the time, it was approximately 2014, 2015, I believe. And it was a great time to be moving to Hong Kong, very different to the environment we are in today with a lot of the national security laws changes that Beijing and China has implemented upon Hong Kong. But it was one of the most freedom-orientated places I have lived in my life. And in Hong Kong, I was doing a lot of Bitcoin mining at the time. I can look back at the archives, and we had a mining farm in Iceland, and that was spitting off like a few Bitcoin every single day. And that was my primary source of income at the time, was the Bitcoin mining. But most of the places in Hong Kong didn't actually accept Bitcoin directly. So I went to a company that issued a Bitcoin debit card. And that Bitcoin debit card allowed me to take some of those Bitcoin, they could come straight from the mining rig onto the Bitcoin debit card, and then it would be automatically converted into Hong Kong dollars, either preloading the debit card without a bank, or there are new debit cards now that can actually, you can load them up with any crypto, and they can be converted at point of transaction into the currency that you're transacting in at the time. If you go back on my YouTube video, you'll see that very same Bitcoin debit card in a 2014 CNBC interview that I uploaded to my YouTube channel. That was just a spare one. Obviously, I don't want to reveal the card numbers on national TV, but that was a replica of the debit card that I was actually using in Hong Kong. Now, the interesting thing today is that now the world of what you can do with your Bitcoin is really progressing rapidly. And I'm going to go through some of those different types of innovations. As I said, I'm not going to make individual recommendations. The reason for that is because within this whole decentralized financial services industry, you've got lots of actors that are kind of launching tokens as pump and dump schemes. And I don't want this to be seen as an individual recommendation for particular tokens. And I don't want to be driving the gambling style mentality that I'm trying to prevent. So I'm not making individual recommendations, but I'm going to go through at some stage, this technology will prove itself, and you'll be able to do a lot more with your cryptocurrency and really live without a bank. It is possible today. So as I said, the real buzz phrase is DeFi. A little bit of background on how this phrase actually came to be, because it's the latest, you're going to be hearing about it everywhere. Just before COVID really became a thing, I was doing a tour in the US, and I gave a presentation at a Bitcoin conference in Miami. That's also on I think it's on the Bank to the Future YouTube channel, because it was an event where we were going sponsored with Bank to the Future. I was talking about this new emerging trend, which the next trends that I'll be investing in the industry. And one of those was talking about this emerging new industry called DeFi. And essentially about $250 million was locked up in decentralized finance. Fast forward to today, in a period of about 6 months, there's now about $10 billion of value locked up in decentralized finance. And so it's a very fast growing industry. I do get concerned when you have these fast growing industries in crypto, because they are prone to pumps and dump trends, as I said, but that's just a part of the industry. So why did this decentralized finance actually come along? And I'm just looking at the Zoom, and I think it's actually saying that even though we got this paid account, it might actually be running out. So I'm just going to get through that, and we'll see how far we actually get. Damn Zoom, I thought we were actually fixed. But it really started around the 9/11 time, I think, when really due to 9/11, there was lots of anti-money laundering laws implemented. And really those laws were designed around counterterrorism, and that led to the removal of all privacy from financial services. It used to be that regulators and law enforcement would be in charge of preventing these things, but due to 9/11, they outsourced the policing of money to the financial industry. Banks had to do all sorts of things, and money just got worse and worse and worse. And I think we're having a resurgence of that as a result of COVID, whereby privacy is really going to be something that gets removed as a result of this time, the health pandemic. And then if you've watched any of my other videos, you're going to see particularly the real estate one that I created on the real estate market crash when COVID started. You're going to see what I think the central bank digital currencies and effects they'll have on privacy. But really, I think the whole movement of decentralized money came from Bitcoin to try and reverse the effect and still do that in a legal way. And by the way, much of the anti-money laundering and privacy infringing policies that we get now are really tax collection rather than actually anti-terrorism financing and the other things. But it was really about how do those trends get reversed legally? Well, the easiest way to do that is take the middle person out of it. And then when you have peer-to-peer finance, the obligations on tax collection and anti-money laundering and all that stuff moves back to police and law enforcement, and the individual taking full responsibility rather than putting the middle company in that. And so Bitcoin came along and created a decentralized form of finance where you could transact without a bank. It's ironic that many people still hold their Bitcoin in bank-like institutions. So many of them have invested in companies like Coinbase. But if you don't own the private key, then you're not using Bitcoin the way it was intended. But some people prefer to do that. And one of the things we'll be doing in future episodes is talking about whether you'll be ready for actually holding your keys or not and what that actually means. But DeFi was essentially decentralized finance is now doing to financial services what essentially Bitcoin did to money. And so really what it is this alternative protocol came along called Ethereum. And Ethereum, don't get it confused with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is our world's best shot at achieving sound money. And Ethereum is a protocol that doesn't have the fixed supply, acts very differently, is more prone to changes, and therefore is not as reliable or commodity like Bitcoin, but is optimizing for different use cases, which is known as smart contracts. And smart contracts are essentially contracts, just like any agreement, a mortgage agreement, whatever it might be, that can be enforced by code rather than a middle person enforcing it by law. Now, the legal system obviously still exists, and you have to still operate within the law, but these contracts actually get enforced by code. And essentially, they're in a programmable form of interacting in financial services. And the first thing that really came along, obviously, was money, and Bitcoin actually provides that. Now, when Ethereum came along, there was no interoperability between the Bitcoin blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain, so many people saw it as a competing force. But now people are actually starting to make contracts whereby you can take your Bitcoin, you can wrap it up into a smart contract, use it as collateral so you don't have to actually sell your Bitcoin, and then actually gain access to a programmable form of Bitcoin built upon the Ethereum blockchain. Now, I know that's a bunch of geek and a bunch of things, but this is what exists today. You can use your Bitcoin as collateral, wrap it into the Ethereum blockchain, and then you can get access to all these smart contracts and not lose the value of actually holding into Bitcoin as well. And I think this is where we're actually going. So Bitcoin and Ethereum becomes a lot more complementary in the future. Once you're in the Ethereum ecosystem, you've collateralized some of your Bitcoin, then you've got this programmable form, these programmable smart contracts, and some of them, they can do things called stablecoins. Now, stablecoin is essentially a way of you taking away the short-term volatility of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you're a long-term hodler, is the phrase, is great for your savings. If you believe in the vision of the value of owning your own money, being able to spend your own money and having a fixed supply, being worth more in the future, Ethereum is a slightly different thing. And so what Ethereum does is it can actually peg your value to fiat currency so that you can transact in short terms, is known as stable coins. And these stable coins essentially allow you to You could collateralize some of your Bitcoin. You could unwrap it in the Ethereum blockchain. You could then use that to actually transact value in a stable coin, which is backed by dollars, backed by pounds, backed by euros, and actually have the short-term benefits of fiat currencies without having to unlock some of your long-term value. So I know a lot of this is quite geeky and complicated for those that are new to this, but these are the opportunities that actually exist, and the user experience is going to be getting better and better and better. So you can have these cryptocurrencies that are pegged to assets like dollars, which then allow you to transact in stable value. And remember, if you actually want to transact in the real world and they're not accepting crypto, you can always use your debit cards to actually transact in the real world and really only go into fiat at point of transaction. There's now decentralized versions of these stable coins as well, which algorithmically adjust. And they actually produce opportunities for people to lock up their value and actually get loans as well. So we're starting to see that these markets are really progressing and chipping into financial services bit by bit. So you can now lock up some of your ETH. You could wrap it in using the Bitcoin wrapped into, and you can borrow stable coins based upon that. So rather than actually having to sell your cryptocurrency that you might be long-term holding, you can actually now use it, lock it up, and get loans in stable value, short-term, of course. The long-term stability of fiat currencies, of course, the US dollar has lost about 90%, 95% of its value over a longer-term time frame, so they're not necessarily that stable. And when you price them against things like gold and Bitcoin, you start to realize that they're not doing that when you're in the international markets. But then you can pay back some of those stable coins, get your ETH back, unwrap it, get back to Bitcoin, and you can reverse the whole transaction as well. The interesting thing about these loans is they're not like bank loans. They're fully collateralized, which means that when you're lending, if you decide to take the other side of the trade, remember in decentralized finance, somebody's borrowing and therefore you could be the lender by locking up your ETH. They tend to be over collateralized. So it's not loans whereby someone can't afford to repay the loan. It's actually someone's got the money and they want to unlock some of the value. And so collateral means that it's backed by more value. So therefore, if there's a bit of volatility in the price, then this enforces the execution. And so therefore, you don't really need to know whether this person can repay or not, because they're locking up the value already. So it's a different type of loan. And it's a loan based upon an economy of savings, people that are already collateralized. So therefore, this whole infrastructure is being built on that. Azad, were you trying to say something more?
Yeah, sorry, we got less than a minute. I just wanted to tell the audience we're going to be back. Obviously, we've got an issue with Zoom.
So how are we actually going to do it? Are we going to have to actually create a link, or?
We'll create another YouTube live. So as soon as we do and you go live, people will actually see it. So it's going to be done via YouTube itself, how we did it last week.
Okay, damn Zoom. Hopefully we'll be back soon. We're actually paying 3 times over. We've actually paid subscribe to a 3rd time, and yet we're still on a free account. It allowed me to connect it to our YouTube account, and it's streaming for some reason. But hopefully, let's just see what happens when in 1 minute unwinds. But if you could like this video and you could share this video, we'll actually, if this does cut out, we'll head over, create a new link, head over to Simon Dixon on YouTube. If you've subscribed to that channel, you'll probably get the notification to your email. If not, use this as a great opportunity